Yo, what is up, 80 team? Welcome back to another video. Check out this footage from Switzerland that I recently went on. I want to talk about something that I feel like has been beaten to death in the male self-improvement space. This is something that I know you have heard of and something that I know you've done a lot of research on, and that is NoFap or no porn. Now, let me preface this by saying I believe you can do anything you put your mind to. Absolutely. If you're a gooner, as they call it right now, you can for sure stop if you really want to. But I want to talk about why it is so difficult to stop. This is something that is not easy. And let's be real, there's been plenty of times where I know you guys have tried to stop, you relapsed, started over again, and some of you guys have just decided to quit altogether and told yourself that it's quite impossible for you to stop for whatever reason. I think the first thing we have to address is that, the exposure to porn and just fapping in general, at least for a young man's life, is very, very early on. I'm not sure about you guys, but I remember being in middle school, having the PSP. Now, yes, I played games on the PSP. I remember playing like Star Wars Battlefront, Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. That's a classic one. But I do remember that was the first instance where I had instant exposure to pornography whenever I wanted to at 11, 10, 12 years old. And not only that, but my friends in school too. We actually started making a joke, not calling it the PlayStation Portable, but the Porn Station Portable. That's how crazy it got. And depending on which circle you're in and your upbringing, like I said, the exposure to porn early on, especially in that internet age, when I was younger, so most of the guys born in 96 or the 90s, this would have been when you're anywhere from 8 to 12 years old. It starts at such a young age, and by that time, the information wasn't out there about how it was damaging to our brains or how this is bad, because in school they talked about drugs all the time. We knew that marijuana was bad, we knew that coke was bad, we knew that smoking cigarettes were bad, but we didn't understand or realize that watching porn every single day was horrible for our brains, and it was starting an addiction that would inevitably be very, very difficult to stop. Think about it. Imagine you're doing something every day for 10 years. And then you get to a point after 10 years where you start to realize that, hey, this probably isn't the best for my health. All this information on NoFap, this is bad for me. And then trying to stop then. That habit has been literally embedded within your biology, especially if you're not a guy who's getting consistent play, right? Which we're also going to talk about. But I think because of the fact most guys start so young and then have developed a routine almost, if you will, of doing it every other day, multiple times a week, or in some cases every day for 10 plus years. That's why it's so hard. And not only that, but we live in a sexualized economy nowadays. I remember posting this on my TikTok one day, and I was mentioning how fitness Instagram, at least for women, it's almost like softcore porn. They're doing squats with their booty showing out. They're wearing tight spandex. If you take a look at any fitness girl's Instagram, I would argue that 90% of it is men who get off to the women being borderline naked and showing her workouts. Now, there are some women who give really good information. They don't sexualize themselves, and they have a primarily female audience. But why is it that the women who do sexualize themselves in the fitness space, those women, what do they end up doing? They start trying to coach and give the fitness offer, and then they realize that, damn, 90% of my audience is men. So what do they have to do? They have to start an OnlyFans. And then after they start the OnlyFans, they now have to keep posting the sexualized fitness content. And that doesn't help the NoFap or porn sort of space we're talking about, right? Because how does it start off? It starts off with the Instagram or the sexualized content, which then translates into most men relapsing or going and watching the real thing. And it's literally everywhere. You go on TikTok right now, you see women showing off their bodies, directing guys to their OnlyFans. Even Sophia Rain, one of these prime OnlyFans models, she ended up making, $43 million in a year? You know how insane that is? Think about that for a second. A woman showing off her body to men through a platform made $43 million. Now, I have a Patreon where I give self-improvement advice. I talk about some more niche experiences. I give some more dating insights. And it's only $10 a month. Guys will argue with me and have to justify spending $10 a month to improve themselves, Whereas there's guys out there paying 50, 100, 200, sometimes thousands of dollars to a woman's OnlyFans because they are not that in control of their sexual desire or sexual discipline. And more than likely because, as I stated before, these guys started doing this gooning. I don't even like the word gooning, but they started fapping such at an early age to where they literally can't control it or they don't even realize it's bad. And that's primed through the sexualized economy that we are in. When I've been on times where I really wanted to quit porn or stop fapping or whatever, I would be very successful at it until I got on Instagram, until I looked at that explore page. By the way, your explore page is primed based on the things that you interact and view with, and especially the things you like. So here's a pro tip. If you are on your explore page and you consistently open up the pictures of women with like nice bodies or bikinis or the IG models or the fitness girls who are sexualizing themselves, you're then going to get promoted more of that content on and on, which is going to have a constant cycle effect of you relapsing, right? So I think the first step is you got to control your usage on social media and control what you really interact with, because like I said, it's like a funnel almost. You see these sexualized images and then you just want to go watch the real thing. Alongside with the sexualized economy, exposure to porn at an early age. Also, we got to keep in mind, higher testosterone levels, especially in men, is usually associated with more or less of sexual discipline, and it makes it more difficult to actually control yourself in that manner. Because the issue I was coming across and how I would kind of justify it to myself is that, I'm a man, I have high sexual energy, I have high testosterone. And in some cases, if I went on NoFap for too long, it would almost become a distraction for me to where I would be so horny, I literally couldn't focus on anything else. Like every woman I saw, whether she was a 4, 5, 6, whatever it may be, she turned me on. Now, this gets actually worse whenever you start to reach, 2 weeks plus, 3 weeks plus, 1 month plus in, a few months in, it gets even worse. And it gets to the point where it becomes so distracting, at least for me. I'm not sure if anybody else is like this, but at least for me, that it becomes really hard to focus on anything else. And I almost found that fapping or releasing that energy, at least whenever I needed to, was almost like a sense of clarity for me. Some guys will say it lowers your energy, it's still bad for you, but for me, I was justifying it because, okay, now I have clarity to focus on my goals. And I've spoken with plenty of people in the self-improvement space, even very successful people in my friend group, and they tell me like they kind of experience the same thing. And so I think that's another issue, is that you start to battle and argue to yourself whether or not this is justifiable, because it's like two pros and cons to both sides. I go on NoFap or I stop watching porn, I increase my sexual energy and desire, but that now becomes a distraction, so much in fact that it's almost better if I just fap. That way I can have a little bit more clarity. But also the downside of fapping, especially with porn, the mental health side effects, the dopamine regulation, all these different things that make it very difficult as a battle within yourself, trying to figure out what exactly to do. And then, at least for me, I started asking myself even deeper questions. Which one is worse, casual sex or NoFap? Because casual sex, in a way, is releasing energy in a way that's similar to porn, except for virtually just with physically different people, right? It's still a vice. Sometimes you regret it, sometimes you don't. But I believe a vice is anything that you do in the short term for reward, and then you regret it in the long term, right? So casual sex to some people can be a vice, but also so is fapping. So which one is worse, casual sex or NoFap? Or should a man just stay celibate and focus on his purpose and goals with no distractions, right? It's such a difficult thing to navigate. And that's also why I think, at least in my head and a lot of other guys' head, the NoFap theory and everything around it just can be very, very hard to navigate. And like I said, almost impossible to accomplish because all these pros and cons to both sides. Now, not only that, but let's be real, dating is difficult. Even if you are a serious NoFap guy, I'm not going to say that a lot of guys cope with their non-ability to get women. I'm sure that's the case a lot of the time, but dating is difficult for a lot of guys. So even if you are a guy on NoFap and you're trying to get a girlfriend or trying to get, at least some sort of intimacy from a woman, that's not an easy process whatsoever. There's a reason why there's dating coaches for men and rarely any dating coaches for women. We know about the sexual marketplace. Women want what's better than them. Being an attractive man is pretty much a prerequisite nowadays. If you're average to below average, yeah, good luck on getting on Tinder or Bumble or Hinge even, and trying to get some sexual desire from a woman. It's not going to happen. You're going to either be fapping or gooning, as some of you guys say, or you're just going to be a celibate, quote unquote, NoFap guy that justifies his lack of success with women as he's focusing on himself or on NoFap, right? But I think the biggest reason why guys try to do NoFap isn't only for the mental health benefits and they understand that it's bad, but also to just become more successful, right? Whenever you have a lot of dopamine in your head, that can affect your behaviors and actions towards your goals. And NoFap can be a way to where you can actually regulate your dopamine and thus be more motivated in other areas of your life. Same thing goes for drugs, for example, weed. Quitting weed, you might notice that over time, because you're not spiking your dopamine so high, you're more motivated to tackle on challenging things, such as going to the gym more, such as, focusing on your career and purpose more, such as learning that skill you've been procrastinating. And NoFap can be beneficial for that, especially if you're doing it multiple times a day. Now, me, myself, I've never been a multiple times a day sort of guy, maybe when I was a teenager, but I do understand the guys who it's a serious problem for, why they take it so seriously, because when you're at that point where you're doing it like 3 to 4 times a day and it's distracting almost every area in your life to where you're deciding to stay home and fap than to go do other things that are productive, then that's when you should definitely practice NoFap. But the truth is, I believe that once again, NoFap can be justifiable because I've seen a lot of success in my life. I made a lot of money. I've done well in business. I've done pretty good things for myself. And the truth was, I was fapping the whole time. I either had a girlfriend and I was fapping, or a combination of either or. And a lot of other successful men are like that too. And so I don't believe that you can't be successful if you don't do NoFap. I still believe that you can be successful as long as it doesn't affect your output or motivation. So for example, some guys like myself, it might provide some clarity, and from that clarity, I can actually get more done. Whereas other guys, it gives them a lack of motivation and laziness and lack of energy, and they can't get things done. And so to answer this NoFap thing overall, I really think it's so contingent based on the person. But I do believe every man should start off first by trying it and see how it affects them at a minimum 2 to 3 months, minimum. Because at that point in time, you're going to be past the withdrawal stages. You're going to be past, sort of the urges, and you're going to see how your body really operates and how it really affects you. Some of you guys, you might not notice a difference whatsoever, but some of you guys, you probably will, And at the end of the day, like I said, it is more beneficial for your brain to not do it, but you really just have to test and see. But as usual, I want to know you guys' take. I want to know your experience on NoFap. Has this been like a very, very hard thing for you to quit? Have you noticed a difference between quitting and not quitting? And if you do relapse all the time, why do you think that is? Ask yourself, is it because the sexualized economy? Is it because you have high testosterone? Is it because you're not seeing a lot of results with women? Let me know down below, all right? Also, don't forget to check out the Patreon if you guys want more exclusive content and access with me. And check out the free links SMV calculator down below if you want to see how you rate comparison to other men and how attractive you are to women. And I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Peace.